Alright, economics video. We'll consider this a start here type video. I think we'll just start from the beginning. Response video to Fred, who made a video just pointing out how, British economics, British politics, how they got, the people got screwed by one of the Labour type parties, the liberal parties that just kind of Toryed up to create a coalition of destruction and mayhem. Such the whole problem with this parliamentary type system, I'd say. Anyway, you gotta get rid of parties. Parties are no good. Anyway, just make a mess out of politics. Anyway, it's a whole separate subject. Okay, economics. Yeah, I should have done I thought I did, but I must have done them in the Do Not God channel, so I'll do them here. Just starting from the beginning thing, economic theory. 101 or whatever. So basic idea is that people need to need each other, need each other's help to do things, get things done. So we kind of want to maximize each other's production value that we can produce for each other. Like going back to the example of, I help you build your house, you help me build my house kind of thing. We make a nice fair exchange, the end. But of course, in this economic system, the exchange gets very complicated. And, because there has to be this money stuff. There has to be some way to create a mechanism that standardizes things. So, because we can't trust each other. That's the bottom line. I mean, if we could trust each other, there wouldn't be any problems. But there's no trust. And human beings will screw each other. So it's like, I would contract with you to build my house, and I'd help you build your house, and then what would happen is you would help me build mine, and then I'd complain, I got a bad back, and, I really can't help you, so too bad. And you'd get fucked. You'd get screwed out of your work. And that happens because people stink. So anyway, so the whole idea really is just to have a system where we can reliably make these contracts with each other. And that we can make contracts that are equitable. Just because, say you have more kids than me or some other dopey reason, all of a sudden I expect to get my house cheaper. That somehow I expect to do less for you or something because you have available cheaper labor than I do, that I have some expectation I should be able to exploit that. And that's sort of what happens in our system now, where the contracts are all perverted because we don't have to make fair deals. We can make very unfair deals because people are they got the thumb screws attached to their thumbs, and they're being screwed, and so they'll say yes because they don't really have a choice. They say yes or die. And that's basically capitalism, is yes, let's let the brutalities of nature and environment and geopolitical bullshit decide how people will live. And the opposite of capitalism, or the converse, would be some sort of system where you would actually say, no, we will regulate it, we will organize it, we will engineer a system, and create mechanisms that ensure equity. Just like rules of a baseball game or a soccer field. And you put up umpires and you make rules and you say, this is how you play the game, right? And this is how you play the game wrong. And, spider web. Created nose itch. Anyway, I shouldn't be doing that anyway, crap. But anyway, so that's it. I mean, I've made this point before, but that's the game. You got to regulate the game. You got to have rules. You got to have umpires. You got to have a way to play a fair game. It's got to be a fair fight, or there's no fight to be had. It's just nonsense and crap. So the other thing to understand as part of this system that's built, this concession to civilization, is you have to create a mechanism that duplicates that trust thing. Some way to create the investment in the future. Because that's what it comes down to. It's just like nothing's going to happen unless somebody's getting paid. They're not going to just say, they're not going to just accept some empty promise. I mean, if I walk up and say, I promise to pay you on Thursday for a hamburger you give me today, like that guy in Popeye, yeah, he was always a welcher, and so he never paid up, and so it ain't going to work. So what capitalism basically is, why they call it capitalism, is because they think capital held by private individuals should be deciding what gets initiated. Because you sort of have to have money to initiate work. You have to have money to get people, to organize them and put them to work to do something. And there's really only two ways. There's only two sources of capital. There's the place where it's made, the government, and then there's the place where people hold it, which is their pocket. Right? So, you can go to the individuals, or I think more sensibly, the government can decide what needs investing in. Because the key thing is when the capital gets invested, well, I'll take a break here. Got a crowd of people and such. Right, so it's this private capital thing, and then this whole idea of capitalism is somehow the capital deserves an increase. That this is somehow the reward of acquiring surplus should be that you derive benefit from it, that it makes money for you, that it makes more stuff for you, that it builds you more house because you have saved, and therefore it's not just a cushion for your own welfare, like having an extra knife in the drawer or an extra screwdriver. You don't expect those things to multiply or to get better with time or age. No, you just expect to have the extra in case you need it. But instead, capitalism says, no, we should reward people who possess surplus. They should get paid an income merely for having surplus. And that's where the whole thing goes to hell. Because they invent this interest thing, this idea that, well, we'll lend out the money, and we'll get a return. And so that return has to be paid out of something. You have to create more value to pay that. So there's no longer even exchanges. This is interest is just saying, making an arrangement where, I'll help you build your house, and then I say something like, you have to help me build a house and a shed. And then the other guy comes back and says, no, I want a house, a shed, and then a barn, and how are we going? And you just start, upping the ante based on who's in a position to up the ante, who can negotiate a better deal. And that advantage is really, is a key ingredient of the whole thing's failure, is the fact that the advantage isn't earned, it isn't fairly acquired. Because we have a system that says, well, if you create a surplus, you can give it to the next generation. You can pick the winners and losers before the fight has even taken place. And so it's no longer a merit system. It's a system that rewards people merely for being born to the right class, and gives them a huge advantage in negotiating any contract, because they're always going to be having this free income, this money for nothing. They're never going to have the burdens of debt, and it just breaks the whole idea of creating fair incentives in how we contract with each other. Let's see, where else do we need to go here? But it's a key thing to understand that you can't have profit on surplus for free. The only way you can have it is by creating an inflation. something else has to get devalued. Something else has to be underappreciated. So you have to either underpay a worker, or you have to inflate the value of whatever currency is being used to pay that interest debt back. And so now we have a problem. Because now we got 2% of the population in the United States owning $40 trillion in assets that they derive interest from. And basically half of those assets can be considered the national debt. So all of America owes this tiny percentage of people this huge amount of money as an IOU. And they'll never be able to pay it back. So they're just going to keep paying interest on it forever.